So guys, today we are here to discuss about Android development. I will bring an overview for you, how Android works under the hood, how is the general architecture for an Android application, and if we will have time, we'll do a mini app here just to you see how it's in practice, how to develop an app in practice. Okay, so these are the topics that we will avoid here. I will make a quick introduction about me, some numbers about Android, platform market share, devices that run Android in our days, how to develop for Android, uh, choose Kotlin or Java for Android native, general architecture for Android app, uh, XML of Compose to develop the Android interface. And then if you have time, we'll do some code here. Okay. Well, before we start, I will do a brief summary about me as an Android developer. I started my career in 2020 in an enterprise called Studio that leads with products related to music. One of the most famous products there is Cifra Club. There is an app that you learn music and tabs, etc. They also have a afinador to play with your guitar and other instruments. In this enterprise, I got a promotion to junior in the start of 2022. And then I started career as an Android developer in iFood as a mid-level uh, until June of 2022. And then I started in the company that I am in our days. That is Mercado Pago. I work with payment machines that builds Android. Uh, and in this enterprise, I got a promotion in March of 2023 as a senior. So this is a brief of my career as an Android developer. Well, Android on the market. I will show you some numbers here to you give impression how Android is big nowadays. We have 3.5 million applications available on Play Store. Of course, uh, a half of this application, more than a half, maybe, I don't know, 90 of these applications not famous, 90 of these application, 90% of these application are not in your phone, but it's just to see how people are developing those things in our days and how these platforms tends to bring more apps. We have 3 billion active users monthly. This almost a half of our global population. Uh, in 2011, Android became the most popular mobile system in the world. So if you take every, I don't know, a phone or other devices that we see here, they probably are running Android. Uh, in 2017, Android suppressed Windows and the Internet access. So in our days, it's more common you see Android devices accessing internet than Windows devices access internet. So it's a great victory, we can say it by this way, to the Android platform. Here I bring a graph related to market share. I don't know if someone told something in the chat. I heard the pop-up here. I will minimize the chat.
I just said that those numbers are super interesting to see
Yeah.
that how huge the market is for Android. I was not, I didn't knew that was that big.
Yeah, it's impressive. Yes. Uh, and here I'm sharing with you, oops, just a moment. Yes. Here I share with you smartphone platform market share. This graph is a little outdated because it's to 2016. But the numbers didn't have changed into our days. It's almost like that. So in 2009, uh, Symbian was the most famous. I don't know if you guys had a Symbian cell phone. Probably you didn't know that was building Symbian, but was a very common type of OS for mobile devices. And then Android was getting more space on the market. And in our days, uh, more than 80% for sure is Android devices. The other is iOS. So Android is getting more and more market share. Um, and then devices that runs Android. The classical one is the smartphones. I think all of you know this. It's more simple when we think in Android nowadays is very easy to relate it to smartphones, but smartphone is not the only device that runs Android. We also have smartwatches to, I don't know, track your exercises, to track your sleep, those things. We also have Android running on TVs. Then when you play Netflix, YouTube, those apps also have a version for TVs because it's streaming and is very related to this type of device. We also have Android running in cars. When you are play your Spotify in car, probably has a version of Spotify for cars because that GPS too, those apps that you use a lot in cars. Now we also have Android running in professional cameras. Probably if a camera uh, has some system, probably system nowadays is running Android. We also have Android in fridge. Yes, here's a Samsung fridge. I think Samsung. Yes, and this fridge builds Android inside to um, keep the track about your food, those things related to the food inside. You can also buy your food by the application in the fridge. So we have a lot of things that you can run in this type of device. Here is Google. I forgot the name of this. Is Google Glasses? Yes, Google Glasses. In nowadays, it's not very famous because I think it was a project that flopped, something like that. But when it comes to the announcement comes, it was like a fever. All of the people was talking about it. Uh, and nowadays we have Apple developing their glasses. And probably after Apple, we will see a lot of other brands developing their own glasses, smart glasses, and using Android probably because the numbers that we saw before. And we have also Android running in payment machines. That is the market that I work in nowadays. So when you put your card in a payment machine, probably the payment machine is running Android. It's very common nowadays. So how to develop for Android? Well, we have a lot of platforms, a lot of frameworks, Flutter, React Native, KMP. There is Kotlin multi-platform, is a framework that is developed by Google too, and is being very famous nowadays. Xamarin, Ionic, Cordova, NativeScript, Kiwi. This one you can develop with Python. So we have a lot of platforms. Some of them are cross-platform, but our focus here in this presentation will talk about native Android development. That is the way that is recommended by Google, and we will focus on that. Okay. And when we are talking about native Android development, we will see this choice. We will use Kotlin or Java or both. Because until 2017, the unique way to develop an Android app with native, in a native way, was using Java. But after that, with developing with JetBrains, that is the enterprise uh, that creates Kotlin, Google started suggesting the developers to use Kotlin because it's easier to understand. We don't have a lot of boilerplates, and one of the bigger advantages of Kotlin when it brings nowadays. Nowadays we have other language that has this too, but uh, I think someone told something in the chat. Oh no, Cecilio? Yes.
Do you know the reasons behind Google's decision to switch from Java to Kotlin? Like the
Yeah,
legal
as I,
decision reasons?
Yeah, as I was saying, there are some things related to the advantage of the Kotlin language, but also there's something related to judgment of Java. I think Google started some juridical um, war, we can say by this way, with Oracle because of Java, And then they wanted a new language to their products, and then they started developing Kotlin with JetBrains. So there is a judgment reason, but also something like the boilerplate and others.
Hmm. I was checking. Uh,
Mm,
I read actually tried to understand the case. So essentially, like I think like previously before Google started using Java, Java was proprietary software from Sun Microsystems. I think that's it. And
mhm.
after some got so basically what happened was that Oracle bought
Yes.
Sun Microsystem, and after they bought the company, they actually noticed that the Google was using Java a lot for mobile for like Android development, and changed the license to some other license that actually charges per use of Java and etc. So essentially, that is a pretty big, huge lawsuit that involves a lot of money, and
Mhm.
that's why Google start moving away from Java to create a new separate language that is Kotlin to use it for Android mobile development. And
Yeah, I
that
think in the end,
basically.
this judgment war was good because we can see nowadays the advantage of Kotlin than Java.
Mhm.
Like the thing that I said, the new safety, the data classes, sealed interface, sealed classes, those a lot of things that Kotlin wins if we compare it with Java, is
Mhm.
very good to in
That's
nowadays.
awesome. That's
Uh,
awesome.
so, oops, let me go to the presentation again. Uh, Yeah. So we have the both options. Nowadays, the both works, but the most recently documentation will be in Kotlin. The way that Google recommends it's Kotlin, and I really suggest Kotlin also because the team of Jetpack Compose, that is a new way to develop UIs. We will see more about Jetpack Compose after. But Jetpack Compose doesn't work with Java, so this is a big disadvantage. So if you are starting a new app, uh, I really recommend starting with Kotlin. And then talking about Jetpack Compose. So Google in 2020, seeing their watching how Flutter, React Native, and other cross-platform frameworks was um, building their UIs, they started developing Jetpack Compose. And what is the difference between Jetpack Compose and XML? Well, basically we have two ways nowadays to develop UIs. With this XML, there is a language very similar to HTML. I think you you will know if you worked with HTML before. Um, but we also have Compose. In Compose, we don't use XML, so it's a very big advantage because we only focus on language. In this case, Kotlin, to develop the UI. In the old way, like the developers, the Android developer the UI using XML by 10 years. So. And after these 10 years, Google started with Jetpack Compose. There is a declarative way to develop the UIs. It's very similar to Flutter. It's very similar to React Native, and it helps a lot you nowadays too because it's easier. I will show you what is the difference now. Well, basically, in imperative way, we have a manipulation of the state through XORs and modifiers methods. But this can cause some problems, such as null pointer exception. So you are trying to set a variable that is null, and you're saying to the code that's not null. So the code say, "Oh, you're saying to me that's not null, but it's null, so it will crash." Um, and if you want to manipulate some components in the tree, like anything, it's because the app is organized in a tree of computer science. So if you want to manipulate this tree, we can, because the imperative way gives us this power. So we can convert components to other. even if this component can't be converted. So we have a lot of problems developing by this way. A lot of um, new pointer exceptions, this manipulation of the tree of components, those things, and is not too intuitive because we are explicitly saying what is needed to do. And in Jetpack Compose is more automatically. I will show you an example here. So which each new state, which new state we have a new component. So for example, if this list of users change for some reason, Jetpack Compose automatically knows that you will recreate just the components that uses this list of users. In this case, the user card component. And this is either, I don't know if there is other Android developer here, but if you compare to the imperative way, in the imperative way to write this lazy column here, there is a list of users. We'll need at least 4 different files. You need the XML, you need the fragment, the activity, you need the adapter, the recycling view. So it's a lot of files. And now it's much easier, very much easier. We will see an example in practice. But it's not the end of the world because uh, there's a lot of enterprise that is still running XML. Uh, for this reason, Google developed a way to get interoperability between Compose and XML as a Java. So if you have a product very old that is using Java, you can start using Kotlin, not like 100% of the project, but starting with a screen, then we'll move a use case and repository. In Compose is similar. So you can change your UI components, not 100% of them, but like a button after a piece of the screen. So it's easier to use and easier to migrate to. Now, talking about the general MVVM architecture. MVVM is a type of architecture that we call model view model. That is very famous in mobile apps, especially in Android native apps. And this is the recommended architecture by the community. We also have MVP, MV, MVI, but in the most of apps, you will see MVVM being used. And in this type of architecture, we have the UI components here. Here I put it fragment, but can be your composable function if you're working with Jetpack Compose. And then let's suppose that we need to save an information. And then we click on save. When we click on this button, the ideal MVVM architecture will send this as an event to the view model. The view model is a layer between your domain and your presentation layer, these layers of the architecture. So the view model will call the use case, passing this value, doing some logic. I don't know, you need to filter this string, removing the spaces, you need to put as a lower camel case. I don't know, you execute some logic here in this use case. And then you pass this to a repository that is a layer that leads with data. Like if we need to call the HTTP request, or if we will get the data from local database cache, for example. This is the layer that leads with this type of information of data. And then we'll have in the end the data source that will make a request to each endpoint. In the case of a local database, we have a local data source. So this is a general architecture. Will not be like always by this way. For example, depending on your feature, you will not need exactly a local data source, or you not need remote data source. Maybe you can do just in a repository, because maybe there is no logical to make this data. It's like just call the API and you don't need. But if your app starting growing up more, we'll probably use this type of architecture here. And talk ship, show me the code. We'll construct a simple app here together. That is this incremental app. And for construct this app, I will try to use these clean architecture concepts with MVVM architecture. Um, The app is very simple. We just click the plus button and we update the value. But in our version, we will have other thing to like clear the value. So let's start. I don't know if you know the famous about Android Studio that kills your computer. So if my computer started lagging here, it's because Android Studio is cheating. But so let's start. For develop this, I will start creating three layers. We have 30 minutes, 35 minutes. Okay. I will create three layers like presentation that will contain our UI things related to the user. I will create a package called domain that will contain our use cases. I will create the data layer. This data layer will contain our repository implementation. Uh, Here I pre-configured this project so we don't lose much time. But in this case, I have an empty screen here. We'll develop all the UI. I will show you how to use these Jetpack Compose things that I mentioned. So I will put this main activity and UI. These are files that was generated automatically by Android Studio. Here we have some colors, some configurations of the theme. Here he's automatically doing the thing related to dark theme and white theme. So Android Studio, when you start an Android project, automatically do this for you. It's very nice. And here we have some configurations related to the typography of the letters that we have in our app. So those things is related to the user interface. And for this reason, we will put these information in the presentation layer. So I will put these files. Okay. Um, and to create our screen, uh, we use Jetpack Compose because it's easier and we don't have much time to create XML files and whatever. And I also use here GitHub Copilot. So if you start uh, seeing those suggestion codes, is because Copilot is helping here. Uh, but let's go. So I will start with a component that is very famous in declarative mobile apps. There is this scaffold. This scaffold is a component that structure string for us. Actually, I will create here counter string to split our UI logical. And in Jetpack Compose, those UI pieces are functions, it's not classes. So it are functions and has a composable annotation. For our counter screen, we need an information of the value that is being shown. So I will pass this information as a integer value. Okay. And then I will start with this scaffold that I mentioned. I will need to put this experimental here because I'm using material tree, sorry. And the material tree is not stable yet in Jetpack Compose. But in our case, we will not have a problem with material tree. We'll be okay. So here I have a top bar. That is when you like in WhatsApp, there's the top bar in the WhatsApp is this type of components that we are using here. And the top app bar, you need a top app bar that is Jetpack Compose, um, Jetpack Compose components. And I will put some information here in this top app bar, like this title. And this title, you have a text. There is a type of component in Jetpack Compose. And I will put a string here, like, I don't know, counteract. Okay. And the content of the scaffold, since we are working with Kotlin, in Kotlin, we can pass if the last parameter of your function is another Lambda function, we can just put the braces here. We don't need to like pass as a parameter. Kotlin understands. So in this case, we have parameter of this Lambda function that is pairing values. Here, Copilot is suggesting something, but I will not accept this suggestion because it's not what I want. I will put here padding values. This padding value is provided from a material tree. So material tree has a default values for padding, other spaces, colors. So those things are provided from these components. You can choose to use or not. In our case, we will use to get more faster this application because it will be harder if we start calculate the padding, the colors, those things. So we will use what Material Tree are suggesting for us. And here, since we have a component with, oops, sorry, since we have a component with two tests aligned, one under other, we have a we will need a column here that will organize in vertical way these components. So this column will have a modifier parameter that is like how you modify your composable. So you modify it with the padding values that is provided by material tree. And then he's suggesting me to do this, but I will put one below other to break the line here, like current value and under we have the value. And then I will transform our integer value using string interpolation. Okay. And I will wrap this column with a box because we need to put a float action button here. So using this box, we can align the components in different ways. We can say like, this will be in the center of the screen, and this will be in the bottom right, in this case. So we use this box. Here, Kopaj suggests me this, and then I put the column here. Um, and the padding values will be in the box in this case, because box is the parent of the components. And the column will have some modifiers related to alignment. So we have vertical alignment to put the things in the center, arrangement on center, and the other is horizontal too. So alignment center horizontal. So now we have the common components in the center, and we need our float action button. We will put this inside our box, but align it to the bottom right of the page. And then we'll have to put these alignments. Let me see. We can do this with the modifier. This modifier is a default type of parameter for any compose that you work. So I will put here a line to align in the bottom end. Bottom end, yes. So bottom end is right. Bottom start is left, basically. And then I will put a padding here to give some space, like this little space here. We can say like HGP, for example. An important thing here, in mobile scenario, we don't work with pixel like in web. We use dimension pixel that consider the resolution of the screen. And in the most of cases, these values is a multiple for h. So here we are using h. Probably the padding values here is 16. Usually do h plus h. And our on click I will not set here now, just so we have uh, the layout. And this float action button has an icon here, so we can put this icon as an icon and pass a value. Icons dot default, and we have plus. Let me see, add. Yes. We have this add icon. Okay, and this is a image vector. I think he's saying something here. And then we need to pass this content description. This content description is something that helps about accessibility. For example, if the user can't see the things in the screen for some reason, you can use this content description to say what is it. So in this case, I will put ads. In Jetpack Compose, you need to pass this because if you don't pass, it will not build. So you need to put the content description always. So I organize the code, putting separate lines, and then let me see how is the application now. So I will build here. Maybe it will take some minutes because I'm sharing my screen and sharing my face. But let's see how it will build. Ah, yeah, here we have a problem because we forgot to call our screen. So here we have the counter screen. Value, I will put 0, but after we will change this. I will show you how to change based in clean architecture. Um, okay, let's build now. Okay, it's launching the application now. And yeah, we have some problems here. It's a little funny. So our button is under the text. Let's correct this. Let me see what is happening here. Yeah, we forgot to put the alignments. No, let me see. We forgot to put the alignments in the text. Yeah, and we forgot to say that the box has a fill max size. In this case, what is happening? Since we don't say that the box has the entire size of the screen, he's putting all the items out together. And by this way, he can't do the arrangements and alignments. So in the case of the column, it will have the not the entire screen, but just the uh, horizontal size. And the vertical will be set by the box. So here we can put like modifier, fill max reached, and let's see if it works. I will build again. Unfortunately, we need to build again the application. It's not too easy, like in web or like in Flutter that we have hash reload. In this case, we need to build again. And in our case, it will be fast, but if you're in a bigger application, it can take some time. So, okay. It's not wrong exactly, but I would like this text in the center of the screen. So let me see what exactly is happening here. In the end of the day, all of the problems of front-end developers is putting things in the center of the screen. So we have this in the center. Box has the fill max size. And let me see, arrangement center, horizontal. Okay. I think we can try like align center here. And here is bottom end. Here we have center of vertical. It's okay, to max size. Okay, let me see what's happening now. Okay, now it's working. So probably I will not need those parameters here because I'm inside a box. And since I'm inside the box, this align is a Kotlin extension of the box scope. And we can organize the items by this way. We not need these two parameters probably. So let's see if it changes something. Yeah, we will need because the 0 here is a string that is inside the column. But the column itself, so we had two different types of alignment here. The alignment of the column inside the box and the alignment of the text inside the column. So for the content in the column, we need the two parameters. And for the column itself, we align with the box. So to be it again, we align the text with the box. So let me see if you, okay, launch it. And if I click here, nothing happens because I'm not adding logical. But funny thing here, we can change the theme, as I said. So now we are in white theme. As I said, this is automatically configured by Android Studio when setting an app. I will keep this theme until we finish the application. Uh, so now what we need to do is correct this thing related to clicks to increment our value. I will put other button here that will be clear, and this clear will put the value to 0 again. Alt clear. Okay. Oh, back to dark because this white thing is hurting my eyes. So I now, and when we click in this clear, I will try to make the value to 0 again. Okay. So nothing happens because I'm not adding in logicals. So as we are following the clean architecture, um, this can seems like too much for this type of application. But here I'm just showing the concepts of repository, use case, those things. Because we can also develop this application without clean code concepts, without MVVM. But since I want to show you how it is, I think this type of application can be easy to show. So as we said, we have a view model here. There is the layer between, there is the class between the presentation layer and domain layer. There's the use case. So you create this view model. Uh, Google provides us a class that is called view model. I will call to counter view model because we already had a class view model from Google. Counter, sorry. Counter. And this view model we import from Android X Google package. And we need, since our view model will have some parameters, we will need a factory here. So to create this factory, we have a boilerplate code, but this boilerplate code can be solved using some library of dependency injection like Coin or Hilch. But in our case, we will use this boilerplate here just because it's a simple application. And this is a view model provider dot factory, and then we will start this factory. Here we are using the concept of anonymous interface to create the factory. And he's saying something to change the type, okay. And then we will return our counter view model. Okay, but this view model needs some parameters because he needs to communicate to a use case, and then the use case will communicate to a repository. So let's pass these values here. So I will pass here the use case. It will be like counter use cases. Counter use cases. And then this will be in our domain layer, since it's a model. So we create a package here that is model, and inside this model we put the counter use case. This counter use case will be our data class. A data class is, as the name says, is a class to represent data. And then we will have some use cases here. I will create the use case inside the domain package. So use case. And then we'll have 3 use cases. The first one will be increment use case. So increment the value. We will have also the clear use case to put the value as 0. And we will have the get value use case to access our repository to get the value use case. Okay. And then in our domain, we'll have a repository interface that will be implemented in our data layer repository. I will call value repository maybe. Okay. Counter repository because the future I think is better. So let me rename here counter repository. And why we need an interface here to be implemented in the data layer? because ideally the domain layer don't have knowledge about presentation things and data things. Because in theory, you can take this package and use it in a front-end application or in an iOS app. So it can't have logical from specific libraries, for example, libraries of dependency injection or libraries of databases, libraries of components of UI. So it can, if and since it can have this reference, we need an interface here to be implemented in the data. In our case, will need be not necessary because our repository will be sim very simple. So we will not have a HTTP request, for example, or accessing a database, but just to follow the structure, I will create implementation here. And so this will contain our value. Remember, repository deals with data. So our data in this case is the value that changes in the screen. Yes. So the repository will just contain this counter. And in our repository interface, we need some functions like, I will get the suggestion of ChatGPT here. Not exactly, because this is more use case. So you have get value, set value, basically. You just need these two functions. Clear view, responsible by the use case. And here we implemented interface. So in set value, receive a value. There is an integer. And here, we need to put the value and set the counter. And you return the value. In Kotlin, we can omit the return word, like putting, like in TypeScript and other languages, just putting equals sign over here if you have just one line. And then in our model, we will have the use cases that we created here. So I will set the suggestions options of the GitHub Copilot. And in this case, I will rename here in a more simple name. And then we will write our domain logical, our business rule. So to increment the value, we need to access our repository. So we have injected in the use case the repository. And we have a invoke function. And this function will increment your our value in the repository. So here you use this run function to set value. So we basically get the value, add one, and set in the use in the repository. Sorry. So here, this is the business rule to increment a value. So now we will write a business rule to clear the value. So here in the use case, we have repository injected, and we have also a invoke function. And then here we will clear the value. Okay, so this is the rule to clear the value in this screen. Just set 0. And to get the value, here we are just saying that the domain layer can't directly get the value. So the presentation layer needs to pass the domain layer to get the value and not getting itself. So we return the repository value here. So this is the business rule. Now, what we need to do is integrate this business rule to our presentation layer. And to do this, we need to use some design patterns here. One of the most famous is the observable pattern to watch the value while it changes in the business layer. So I will have here a mutable shared flow. There is a type of observable in Android. I will call it value. There is a mutable shared flow. We can also use live data here. This is another type of observable, but here an option to use this one. I use mutable shared, mutable state flow that I need in this case. stage flow. And in this case, I will pass as a 0. So this is private because the UI can't change the value itself, but we will need public to UI just see the value. And in this case, it's not mutable, it's unmutable. And for this case, we use characterful for the type. We are converting the mutable to something not mutable to the UI watches. And then we will need to create the parameters in this case. So use case have counter use cases. Counter use cases has this use case here. So clear get value and increment. I will create an instance of the repository. There is counter repository. So we pass this here. Oops. So our use case. And we import our use cases. Okay. And now I will get this information from our activity. And in this case, we need the reference of the view model. So we have a view model instance here. View models. This is a function that instantiates our view model based on a factor. Counter view model. And now we have the view model reference in our activity. And then we will take the value. Value by view model. Oops. And then we start watching the stage of the screen. And here is the pattern observable. Observable pattern. So, and here is not shared flow, it's a stage flow, the other type of observable stage flow. Okay. And now what's happening? Let me see what it's. Okay, I need this inside. Okay. And then I will not pass error anymore, but our value. So remove this. And our counter screen is not done yet because we need to define the clicks of the button. And to define this click, I will use some type of structure here that is called sealed, that is called NN. You can use sealed interfaces too, but in this case, it's more simpler. So you use an NN. If we had parameters in the events, we could use sealed interfaces with class. But now we use this NN. So you call UI event. And then we have the increment. The increment will be called when the user, oops, sorry. The increment will be called when the user clicks this button here. And the decrement will be called when the user clicks in decrement and clear button. Sorry, it's not decrement, but clear, to clear the value. And here, in onClick, we can call like view model dot, sorry, yeah, we need to pass the reference here. It's not the view model itself, but the event of the UI. UI event, unit on event. Here I'm passing a lambda function to the status event. And then here we have the event. In this case is clear, UI event not clear. And in the other case is, oops, so second guys, here will be our add event increment. Okay, now we will watch these events here in the view model and call each use case from dispatch UI event that receives an event. Y event. Now we'll watch the event and call the use cases. Okay, so for increment, we call the use case to increment, and to clear, we call the use case to clear. And then we need to update the state of the UI. So we call this update function and call the use case to get the value. So in theory, we finished it. No, we need to pass here our lambda function. That is the on event. And then here we pass the view model dot dispatch UI event. In this case, we can use a more simple syntax here. Yes. Okay. Just to keep the pattern and put the arguments in separate lines. Okay. So just reviewing the code. Well, let's run first, because if some bug happens, we need to change the code. Let's see. It's launching the app. Okay. So now it's working. We clicking here is counting and clear in the values. So as I said, it's a very simple application. Maybe we can make it more fast if we don't care about this thing about clean architecture and MVVM, just putting all inside the counter string, for example. But it will be harder to do maintenance in the app if we do it by this way. So now, as our app is architecture using MVVM and clean architecture things, we can do other features easily, just creating the data domain presentation and do the same structure to other features. So just reviewing, we have our counter string that is composable. We call an event in the view model. And the view model will call the use cases that increment and clear the values. And then this will be notified using an observable pattern. There is this stateful here inside the composable. In this case, the main activity as observable. So guys, this is the basics of Android development. So if you're curious about how to develop those things, I suggest looking in Google documentation, in Google Code Labs. Google has a lot of code labs to learn about Android development. And this, someone has some question? I will stop sharing, okay?
Top demais, Pierre.
Thanks.
E aí, alguém tem alguma pergunta? Someone has some questions?
Eu tenho uma, porque eu desenvolvo algumas coisas para Android em React Native.
Uhum.
Tipo, qual o principal benefício de você usar o Kotlin em relação ao React Native?
Ok. Cara, um dos benefícios é performance. Assim, eu acho que esse... Não diria que é o mais notório, mas assim, vai depender da aplicação, é claro. Mas a performance, porque o React Native, no fim das contas, assim como o Flutter, assim como qualquer plataforma, framework cross-plataforma, o que ele vai fazer? Ele vai ter um código nativo por baixo dos panos, que vai ser interpretado via, na verdade, o JavaScript vai ser interpretado via esse código nativo. Então, tipo, você tem um layer a mais, sabe? Então, você tem aqui o nativo, que é isso aqui que eu desenvolvi, e aí você vai ter uma camada em cima, que é o React Native. Então, você concorda comigo que o compilador vai ter que tipo, passar primeiro pelo React Native, depois ir para a camada de baixo, que é o nativo. A olho humano, às vezes essa performance não é notória, sabe? Tipo, é coisa de milissegundos, mas às vezes você pode notar, sei lá, alguma má performance. Existem testes benchmarks pegando uma aplicação feita inteira em React Native, inteira em Android nativo, e aí eles usam a mesma arquitetura e tipo código similar, então usam os mesmos tempos de complexidade, e você vê que o app nativo ele performa melhor, né? Justamente porque você já está escrevendo direto na linguagem que vai ser compilada, entre aspas, né? É lógico que você tem a JVM, você tem assembly e tudo embaixo, mas assim, é um layer a menos.
É
Uma
porque
outra vantagem, pode falar.
você falou que são milissegundos de diferença,
Uhum.
mas se a gente for parar para pensar na arquitetura de hardware dos diversos aparelhos Android, você vai ter empilhamento de microsegundos.
Sim,
Vai dar uma diferença bem grande.
sim, isso pode acontecer. Então, assim, depende da aplicação, depende do device, né? Se você tiver um device mais limitado, com pouca memória, isso aí pode fazer bastante diferença. Tanto é que alguns devices, por exemplo, no meu caso, que eu trabalho com máquina de pagamento, às vezes são devices muito limitados, sabe? Então, assim, em questão de memória, em questão de processamento. Então, para esse tipo de device, às vezes a linguagem e o framework importa, porque você precisa de uma coisa mais rápida, né? Uma outra vantagem também é para fazer integração com sensor. Hoje, tipo, o React Native, o Flutter, eles têm algumas livros que fazem isso, mas no nativo eu sinto que é mais fácil, sabe? Se você tem que trabalhar com câmera, com GPS, com acelerômetro, essas coisas eu acho que estão mais perto do SDK, entende? Aí fica mais fácil trabalhar com nativo.
Eu não saberia dizer porque eu sempre programei
Uhum,
para mobile só pelo Native, pelo React Native.
uhum,
Antes disso, eu sou da época do Eclipse. Quando você começou a aprender, eu estava aprendendo Android lá na época do Eclipse, utilizando aquele kernel maldito Frankenstein, meio JavaScript, meio Java, meio XML.
sim. Naquela época era
Aquilo era
só Map.
horrível. Aquilo era horrível.
Uhum.
Na boa, usar o Eclipse era horrível. Você não conseguia fazer os componentes se conversarem direito, dava cada bug inacreditável.
Sim. O Android Studio salvou muito, assim, para quem desenvolve nativo, pelo menos, tipo, foi uma revolução, sabe?
Imagino.
Eu acho que, não sei se caiu, se eu caiu, se alguém caiu.
Eu imagino, cara, imagina. Porque, tipo, você foi contando a história, mais ou menos, aí, o funcionamento das plataformas, e eu fui lembrando daquela época. Inclusive, tá ali
Uhum.
na minha prateleira ali um livro de 1900 e Guaraná com rolha de desenvolvimento Android, um dos primeiros.
Bacana, bacana.
Galera, alguém quer fazer mais alguma pergunta ou outro comentário pro Pierre?
Pierre, rapidinho. No final
Bora.
você deixou uma referência aí depois? Uma referência, algum site que eu não peguei qual foi.
Desculpa, Glaive, eu não tô conseguindo te ouvir direito.
Ah, tá, foi difícil. Opa, melhorou agora? Melhorou?
Sim, pode falar. Acho que agora dá para ouvir.
No final você deixou uma referência, um site de referência?
Eu citei você está falando da forma de aprender, né? O Android nativo. Eu citei algumas, que é a documentação da Google. A Google tem os próprios cursos dela mesmo, Informática Code Lab e vídeo ensinando. Mas eu não coloquei na apresentação. Eu vou editar essa apresentação colocando esses links de referências, tanto das estatísticas que eu citei ao longo da apresentação, quanto as referências que eu citei para aprender. E aí eu compartilho com o Tarcísio e ele manda lá para vocês, beleza?
Maravilha, maravilha.
Joga lá no grupo depois, Pierre. Esses
Beleza.
materiais.
Uhum.
Show de bola. Deixa eu gravar aqui.